Hello everybody and welcome to NES Remix for the Nintendo Wii U. Okay.
That's right. It's the Super SCWRM Brothers Super Show.
Yeah. Okay, so what is NES Remix? NES Remix is a passion side project from the director of Super Mario 3D World. Yes, this game was actually a side project that they made in between 3D World and Captain Toad. Yes, the team that made Super Mario Galaxy and the like, and Odyssey. So, what is this? Well, look at this. 15 enemies and, well, Invincible Mario. Yeah, NES Remix is literally taking NES games and doing some interesting remix challenges out of them, basically.
Now, while some people were initially disappointed at this, a lot of people have come around on this game. What this is essentially, think about it like, say, Nintendo Land meets, well, a remake of sorts. In the sense that what you get are these little mini-game challenges based off of classic NES games in there. They're not straightforward playthroughs, but they're sort of the games with an extra spin added to them.
Basically, it's exactly what the title implies. It takes all these NES games and puts fresh new spins on them by making you do various challenges that are a bit unconventional to how you usually play these games normally. Okay, so now we've unlocked all these games. So we've unlocked the original Donkey Kong Jr. There you go.
If I recall correctly, the Switch version compiles the games from both NES and NES Remix 2.
Yeah, that's the thing, Joe, and one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this game. There is no Switch version of these yet, which is something that I think is very weird. This would be perfect to have on the Switch, but whatever. Basically, what happened was they released NES Remix and then NES Remix 2 on the Wii U, and both of them were compiled on the 3DS under the name Ultimate NES Remix. Now you'd think they would.
I could have sworn that there was a new port made on the Switch. Maybe I just dreamed of that.
Trust me, Jova. If there was a Switch version, I would be recording that one instead.
Okay, so remind me. Oh wait, did you also get Ultimate NES Remix?
Ultimate NES Remix is just these two games compiled together. So if you have the Wii U versions, you don't need to get the 3DS, especially because now. Go on.
Okay, now I remember what I was getting mixed up with, actually. No, the fusion of these two wasn't released on the Switch. It was released on the 3DS.
Yeah, which, don't get me wrong, it's cool to have that, again, for what at the time was an on-the-go version of this game, but all the more reason why we need the Wii U versions ported to the Switch, you know?
Remind me. I know there was a bit of backlash to this game because, again, you know, when people heard NES Remix, there were some who thought, oh, these would be like, you know, sort of new enhanced versions of the classic titles combined into a pack. I wonder, like, I know there was a bit of backlash, but did the backlash ever get to a point where, okay, I get why they didn't bring this to the Switch because they don't want to touch base on this again?
I doubt that's the case. I mean, okay, this first game did get a bit of, you know, like, mixed responses, but the second game overall is regarded as a really great collection of challenges. Again, the thing about the backlash is that it was mostly just, like you said, people who expected something different from this because of the name. Although, to be fair to Nintendo never outright was always clear from the get-go that this was just a compilation of challenges, not an actual collection of games. So I feel like people probably were a bit too harsh, to be honest. Because
okay, let's be fair. Not everyone like us constantly follows this stuff online. So, say you're just a casual shop goer, you know, and you see a game called NES Remix, which, you know, again, going off of what it was suggesting at the time by the cover alone, it looked like a repackaging of the games. I can get why there would be a fair portion of people who are caught unawares by that stuff. Mind you, though, yeah, from what I recall, there wasn't as much backlash on the second game because by that point, most people knew what this was going to go. That's why I'm asking if, like, there was some latent backlash that still persisted.
I seriously doubt that. Again, Aya Shida, the director of 3D World, for those is of course, you know, a guy who grew up on NES games, which is why he went on to work for Nintendo. And this was a little passion project of his. So yeah, and I also, again, you guys know me, like anything made by Koizumi's team, I would immediately get. And yeah, like I said, I actually really dig what they did here. It's a really collect all the coins before time runs out. So the challenges first start with being somewhat easy, just to get you into it. But as you progress with the various challenges, they get harder and harder in difficulty. So these early challenges, think of these early challenges as a way for people who may not have played the original games to still get familiarized with the game before we dish out the tougher challenges.
Which does, which again provides interesting.
Oh boy, guys! I got a new stamp. I got myself a Goomba stamp so I can share on Miiverse.
Yeah, let's put it on the.
Yeah.
Alas.
I mean, all they had to do is basically rework the stamp feature into something like an avatar thing, or maybe, we can't put it on Miiverse anymore, but...
So my best guess in regards to why we haven't gotten this yet will probably be that we'll eventually get it. Nintendo are just pacing out their, I'm assuming this is probably just going to be eShop material unless they actually release a physical version.
They actually did make a physical version of both games on the Wii U as well.
I know that they did that, but I'm assuming for the Switch it'll probably be eShop material. Mind you, if they do make a physical version, I'm expecting it to be of Ultimate NES Remix because,
Sure. Well, the Wii U physical compilation was called NES Remix Pack. It had both this and the second game. So it's basically
the 3DS version was called Ultimate NES Remix.
That's the thing, Joe. But the only difference between NES Remix Pack and Ultimate NES Remix is that Ultimate already comes with the championship mode unlocked from the get-go, whereas in the Wii U versions you have to unlock that. So I don't know. I just want this thing on the Switch, so I can play it on the go and in HD.
Well, as HD as you can with these 8-bit games.
Well, yeah.
8-bit. Let's just say this is like one of those 3D, 2D HD ones.
All right. So with this Donkey Kong, now for there's a tab for each game, and there's also an NES Remix tab, and that one is the one that the challenges are definitely all the more different because they take these games and they literally, okay, this time we have to get to the top like in the original game, but we can only see as much as the game will tell you. So there you go. Now think of this as a different way to play again. So that's basically what the game consists of: taking all these games and putting these new spins on them and playing them in French. There you go. That was just my thing. Yes, Joe?
I was gonna try and remember if these were sold at full price back in the day, but I think they were $19.99.
NES Remix, the original eShop releases from the Wii U were like $15 each. So I will argue that's fair. The game, each of the two NES Remixes games has a total of 8 games, and there are a crap ton of challenges for them. I will argue $15 is fair.
Probably. I guess one thing I was a bit iffy on with the first one was that I do feel like, there was only so much time you could get out of these mini games and whatnot that, I don't know. Mind you, though, I guess, 15 would have been fine.
Yeah, like I said, for $15, this is more than just fine to me, honestly. I think $15 is a perfectly fair price for something like this.
Maybe we could argue it down to 10, but I'd say 15 was relatively fine. Okay, I think the best way to describe the NES Remix games are, they're very much an acquired taste. You might take some finagling to get interested in them, but if you're willing to dedicate the time to really want to get the most out of them, yeah, you will probably get your money's worth.
Yes, Twips?
Picking up.
I'm sorry, Liz, could you repeat that?
What are these bees you're picking up?
These bees? I don't...
I think he's talking about the stamps.
Oh, the stamps. The stamps are just used so you can use on Miiverse strips. That's all they are.
On the top right corner there, it says B16.
Oh, B. That's bit. That's your points. Basically, the more bit points you get, the more stamps you get. Basically, that's every time you reach a new threshold, you get a new stamp. That's the basic gist of it. As for the stars themselves, every time you complete a challenge, you're graded in from a rating of 1 to 3 stars, depending on how fast and how well you did. The more stars you get, the more challenges you unlock, basically. For this one, it's jump over 3 barrels. There you go. So yeah, like I said, when it comes to starting up each individual challenges of a specific game, again, for those who may not have played the games, you can tell that Tayashida wanted this game to also be approachable to people who have not played these games originally, and which is why these early challenges act more like tutorials rather than actual challenges, just so that newcomers can still get into this game without necessarily playing the original games first. So I appreciate that. It's a way to make the game more, like again, it stands on its own. Like it's possible to enjoy this even if you're not a veteran of NES games. So I appreciate that. There you go.
So since we're on a Donkey Kong stage, who else has played Donkey Kong 94?
Which one is that?
The Game Boy Advance one.
Oh, wait, 94? Didn't the Game Boy
94 or 93?
Didn't the Game Boy Advance come out in 2000 or 2001 or whatever it was? I think maybe I'm thinking of the Game Boy one. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, the Game Boy one.
Okay, Game Boy one. Yes, I have.
Super Game Boy.
Yeah.
I mixed up the Super Game Boy with the Game Boy Advance, but yeah, no.
Yeah. I have. It's good. I enjoy those games. Yeah. I'm still a bit. Oh fuck. There you go. I mean, at the very least, this is the NES version of Donkey Kong, and like the arcade version that's also available on the Switch via Arcade Archives, which is fine. But like I said, the NES version is missing a level, so it's not the definitive version. So I'm glad that at the very least we do have the arcade version on Switch now. So there's that. Reach it up.
Are you one of those mavericks who likes Donkey Kong 3 better than the original?
No.
I'm talking strict.
To me, the original Donkey Kong is just like a classic. Like the Donkey Kong Jr. and 3 are fine, but I don't know. There's just, especially 3. I don't know. There's just something about it that doesn't resonate with me quite as much as this first one.
3 is weird. Junior is an interesting spin on things, yes, but
yeah, the one game where Mario is a villain.
I know, right? And hey, that's the one game that involves Donkey Kong's father, and that we never heard from Donkey Kong Jr. again.
Well, remember, according to Rare back in the 90s, they explained that Cranky Kong is actually the original Donkey Kong from these games, whereas Junior is actually the Donkey Kong that we now know.
No. Actually, Junior is Donkey Kong's father, since, remember, Donkey Kong Jr. is about Junior rescuing his father. And since Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong, who's being rescued in Donkey Kong Jr., that would make Junior the son of Cranky Kong, ergo Donkey Kong's father.
Oh, well. Get to the goal, Mario. I'll get that!
Yeah, this one. This is a test of your... This is a more proper challenge. This one, you have to... you cannot stop running. The game will not let you. So basically, you have to time your jumps very well with this one. Okay, that was my bad again.
It's like a prototype for eventual Mario Maker levels.
This is an actual level from Super Mario Bros., but the spin here is that you can't stop running. So again, this particular version of the challenge forces you to be much more precise with your timing. So let's try that again.
Why have you got a random score? 58, 850.
I'm guessing they had to play the game all the way to this point and save the state and then start creating the challenge. I don't know exactly how the...
There's shadows in the background as well, so this isn't the proper game.
No, it's altered. Well, here's the thing. If you take a look at... Go on.
My guess is that it's to simulate... Oh, it's like you're in the middle of playing Super Mario Brothers.
If you actually
notice that the points do actually go up when you collect coins as well.
If you actually go into the game's files. There actually is a folder called ROMs, and all the ROMs are there. So these are apparently the original ROMs running on some kind of emulator. I don't know what specific software they used for this, but yeah, the original ROMs are in the game file, so they are being used to some kind of extent. In fact, if you hack the game, you can probably make it so that you can play all of the games properly, fully. Because if the full ROMs are indeed on the game files, like I've noticed myself, yeah, you can hack this game potentially into making it so that it is a proper collection of NES games. So it kind of reminds me of Sonic Gems collection in the museum, where you had all those things. Oh, finish Sonic 2, and then there's a little timer for you to beat the FX zone, you know, and you can potentially
beat Sonic CD in like an hour or something.
Yeah, and you can potentially beat it quickly and get back to the title screen and then start the game proper. But of course, you know, you only have 5 minutes in each of those things. However, you can hack Gems Collection to allow for those ROMs to be played properly, because the ROMs are fully in the game still. So Gems Collection technically has everything that the Mega Collection has. It's just that they don't allow you to play fully because, you know. So in here it's the same thing, where the full ROMs are on the game. It's just that, you know, you can play them properly unless you hack the game. There you go. So this is Donkey Kong Jr., like we've said. There you go. The one game where Mario is a villain. I guess this is revenge for what happened in the first game.
What happened was the woman you were trying to save murdered, and Mario's doing this out of...
No, the story is
That would not be the weirdest story we've had in the Mario lore.
The basic story is that Mario kidnapped Donkey Kong because Donkey Kong is mean, and Donkey Kong Jr. has to save him. That's literally it's literally as elaborate as that.
Which makes me wonder, are we really the bad guys? Or...
I mean, there was a story in Mario Party 2 where everyone was just bickering with each other who gets to have the land named after them.
Donkey Kong Jr., as you can... Go on.
Well, Dibs, Mario Party in general is about squabbling when you get down to it.
Yeah. Aside from different abilities, you know, the Donkey Kong Jr. can climb vines and all that shit. Donkey Kong Jr. is basically kind of a fresh spin on the first game. It still boils down to getting to the top, so it's not that different. And here's the original Mario Brothers, not to be confused with Super Mario Brothers. The original Mario Brothers was like this. There you go. So this
fact, actually,
it was in this game. Go on.
The Game Boy Advance version of this game is how I first figured out that the Mario Brothers both share the last name Mario, because the intro screen for that one is the one that introduces Luigi as Luigi Mario.
Yeah, this game was bundled with most of the Super Mario Advance games. It was in this game that Luigi made his debut. The interesting thing is that unlike Super Mario Brothers, the clothes on Mario actually look proper. You know, the red plus with the blue, whereas in Super Mario Brothers, his colors are red and brown for some reason. I mean, they of course fixed that in later games, but you know, weird that they would.
Speaking of which, when we eventually cover Super Mario Brothers, are we doing the original NES version or the pack that has the cool touched up remade? I think those are 16-bit. I
think you mean Super Mario All-Stars?
All-Stars?
Yes. I'm actually recording that playthrough right now, so I can actually answer you that. I record the bulk of the playthrough will be the original NES version, because that's the one that's the most iconic. When Nintendo references Super Mario Bros., they always reference the look at for example, Super Mario Odyssey. When you turn into 2D 8-bit 2D Mario, what do they don't use the SNES version of sprite. They use the NES version of sprite. Again, that's the iconic one. So I feel go on.
I think the main reason they didn't do that was because of, you know, well, the fact that those sprites look kind of similar to the world sprites, and since, you know, in Mario Maker they already have, you know, world is one of the fonts, they probably figured that using All-Stars would be, you know, repetitive.
That I do not know. However, I will have an extra part where I showcase both the All-Stars NES version, Super Nintendo version, sorry, as well as the Game Boy Color Deluxe version, because that version is also pretty interesting. and guess.
So are you gonna use the All-Stars versions for when you tackle lost levels?
No. For lost levels, I'm also gonna be using the NES version because, well, why not? I mean, it's the. I mean, I do like. Okay, call me nostalgic or whatever, but there's just something about the original 8-bit version of Super Mario Bros. That just has a very innate charm that I don't quite get the same from the SNES remake. You know, that's just something. That's just something. Go on.
No, I mean, like, well, while I may like the All-Stars looks, I totally get why the NES one is the one that we see brought back.
Although, isn't the NES version of Lost Levels the one where if you get a game over that you get bumped right all the way back to the beginning?
Yes. However, I usually I use cheats to get around that because honestly, I don't even consider them cheats. I consider quite a lot of quality of life improvements, to be honest with you. But
the All-Stars version had it where if you die, you go back to the beginning of the
All right.
world.
So in this one, there's two Mario. I actually couldn't quite get this challenge. Yeah, so as you can see, the game eventually steps up in terms of difficulty. You have two Marios, and you have to somehow get all the coins within only 15 seconds. And it's not as easy as it may seem. Go on.
This one takes a bit of pre-planning, essentially.
Yeah.
There are actually technically 3 Marios, but usually one is off-screen at the time. So the idea here is essentially you need to map it out just right, while remembering that both Marios are making, the same movements at the same time.
I get the feeling
that then, you can get it so that they get all the coins. Like I said, this can take a bit of pre-planning.
Yeah, you can tell this is made by, this is a project by Hayashida, because this is literally the exact same concept as the double cherry from 3D World. Like your control
behind that as well.
Well, like I said, Joe, but this was a passion project from the 3D World team, basically. Like Hayashida grew up on NES games, and this was apparently a pet project of his that he made, like in between, because the director of Captain Toad was someone different. So Hayashida had some free time on his hands, so he decided to make this for the Wii U, basically. And yeah, I actually really dig this particular these particular, because again they're really cool. It's a really cool idea. It's kind of like the challenge, the mission mode. Okay, so now let's take a look at NES Remix 2. The NES Remix series lets you experience the NES games in a whole new way, either on your own or with your friends. In addition to the Wii U gamepad, you can also use when playing with friends, try connecting a separate controller for each person and have fun taking turns. So,
just like the old days.
Yes. NES Remix 2 allows you to post text, replay videos, clear time scores, and unwritten posts to Miiverse. However, we can't do that anymore. Okay, so NES Remix 2 were released in the year of Luigi. So as a result, aside from the championship mode, which is right there, you have Super Luigi Brothers.
It has been so long since Year of Luigi, but I remember it as clear as day.
Well,
yeah.
If it's the Year of Luigi, does that mean no one bought it?
Okay, so the Year of Super Luigi Brothers is literally the original Super Mario Bros. But mirrored, and you play as Luigi from Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels. Because for those who forgot, Luigi in the original Super Mario Bros. Was just a palette swap of Mario. It was with Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Lost Levels, that Miyamoto gave him his trademark slippery movement and higher jump that we all know from.
I saw you click on that thing to widen the range for some reason.
Yes, that's because I'm recording this on Semu, the Wii U emulator.
Oh, so you picked that background.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, no. This is the background that always shows up when you play the Super Luigi Brothers on the game. So, think of it. It's kind of like, think of these games
wait, hold on. Now I think I get it. Like, well, if I recall correctly, you could interact with the touchpad to affect the aspect ratio in the Wii U.
The way Semu works, Jova, is that if you have the game on the control on gamepad mode, you can use the mouse to click on the actual screen as if you were actually touching on the gamepad. So it works that way.
Just Mume or Citra.
Yeah. So there you go, like that. See.
Yeah, why were you killing poor Luigi?
That's the thing, Dwibs. I was just trying to do something, but I forgot that I could just leave by pressing that pause button there. Anyway, NES.
Maybe someday we'll get a full playthrough of Super Luigi Brothers to give the Green Plumber his dues.
I mean, okay, the other thing about Luigi in the original Mario 2 is that his traction's really slippery.
That's the idea, Dwibs. That was premiered in Lost Levels, aka the original Super Mario Bros. 2.
Just gonna say it. I think the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2 is the better sequel.
If anything, because it's not a cheap as all hell game.
Well, that also because it actually has something more of a story. Whereas, let's see, what's the dealio with the original 2? It's literally a reboot.
Sorry.
I mean, it wasn't really a Mario story to begin with. It was Doki Doki Panic.
The thing is, the original Super Mario Bros. 2, Miyamoto envisioned that as just a game made for people who mastered the original. So it was intentionally made to be supremely hard, which I'm okay with. But as some commentator put it in his review that he made a few back in the day. It's not just that it's hard, it's just very poorly designed in a lot of ways.
The best way to describe that one is it's like an official take of Kaizo Mario. Now mind you, it is still not as insane as Kaizo Mario can get. And let me tell you, that should put things into perspective how bad Kaizo Mario is. But to give Lost Levels some credit, they're not necessarily impossible. Like, there is some forefront put up to them.
Yeah.
But goddamn, do you have to be like possibly a technical whiz at the moveset in order to absolutely get it? And I don't just mean like, your stuff like, no, like Pedro said, it's for people who absolutely mastered the original Mario game, which, yeah, that one could get tough too, but oh god, Lost Levels.
Super Mario Galaxy 2 is an overall much better example of how you do something like that, because Super Mario Galaxy 2, as Miyamoto said back in the day, was made specifically to be a more challenging game for Mario veterans compared to the more relaxing, easygoing nature of Galaxy 1.
Point Grandmaster Galaxy.
Yeah, because remember in Galaxy 1, if you get all the stars with both Mario and Luigi, you unlock the grand finale Galaxy, which is just a glorified congratulations screen, basically. It was Galaxy 2 that started this whole tradition of 3D Mario games having the one super duper hard level for those who complete all the stars, basically.
Where they literally made it that you were running across the congratulations in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do the same thing in Odyssey. The thing about Koizumi's team is that they're very consistent in how they make games. Like when you're playing a Koizumi team game, you know it because there's just that distinct personality that their games have, basically. Like for example, here's a trope from them. If you're playing a Koizumi Mario game, there's going to be some kind of level that has a throwback to an older Nintendo game. In 3D Land, we had Zelda. In Captain Toad, we had the original Donkey Kong. In 3D World, we had a level that's an homage to Super Mario Kart.
Okay, remind me. What was the homage to Zelda in the 3D Land game?
There was a specific level where you had to. It was basically a top-down level, just like in the older Zelda games, where you light torches using Fire Mario, and then when you get to the end, it even shows a little giant 8-bit sprite of Link from Zelda 1.
I feel like we had stuff like that in 64, but I think you might be onto something.
64 didn't have like an intentional, blatant nostalgic reference of specifically. Like in 3D Land,
Pedro, 64 literally has the Wallmaster hands.
I guess if you want to count that as one, I guess. Like when I think nostalgic reference, I think something more akin to the festival from Super Mario Odyssey, right? Like where it's just this blatant, incredibly unapologetic homage to Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong.
I mean, to 64's credit, literally sticking iconic enemies from a Zelda game like the Wallmaster hands, I'd say, is quite noble as well.
Sure. I understand that. But that being said, yeah, that game did it. Sunshine didn't do that. I will say that. So I will.
Sunshine.
Well, I like Sunshine. I mean, it's.
Oh, I do too. I mean, honestly, I did not mind a lot of the things that Sunshine introduced to the franchise, like voice acting, a more fleshed out story, and whatnot.
So we're on. So now we're on Doki Doki Mario Brothers 2.
Super Mario Brothers 2, yes, USA, or Super Mario USA if you want to call it that, because in Japan it's called Super Mario USA.
Okay.
Again, it's one of those cases where people prefer that version over the actual original too.
Not to mention, a lot of the stuff that was introduced in Doki Doki Panic ended up being incorporated as official Mario stuff anyway, so...
To the point where people now recognize those more as Mario things than Doki Doki.
Lost Levels is still called Lost Levels over here. Every time Nintendo re-releases that game, they don't release it. I mean, yeah, the title screen still says Super Mario Bros. 2, but Nintendo has never bothered to change the title screen, even in Western versions. Like for example, when you play it in Super Mario All Stars, for example. When you go to the level select, to the game select menu, it says Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels. But then when you go to the title screen of that game, it says Super Mario Bros. 2, because that's what it is. But you'd think I'm actually surprised Nintendo didn't bother, changing the title screen for the Western releases of that game, considering at this point they basically regard the US 2 as the proper sequel nowadays. So I don't know.
I think, yeah, like that is a weird thing. My guess is keep it for the iconic naming structure, I suppose.
I mean, I understand. I mean, obviously,
just distinctly call it 2.
I mean, obviously, for the Japanese re-releases, obviously retained Super Mario Bros. 2 because the game was always known as Super Mario Bros. 2. In Japan, Super Mario Bros. 2 USA only came out in Japan later, which is why it was called Super Mario USA to differentiate. Alright, so this is a tutorial for Kirby's Adventure, the second Kirby game. There you go. Press up in Kirby. Okay, if you've ever played a classic Kirby game, you know exactly how this works. This was actually for those who may have forgotten. Nowadays, Sakurai is mostly known for being the Smash guy. However, way before Smash was a thing, he created Kirby on the Game Boy. And Yes.
I love how on his YouTube channel, even he jokes that, hey guys, yes, I created Kirby, but I haven't really been around for that many games either.
No, he hasn't. If I remember correctly, he only worked on games on the Game Boy, NES, and Super NES. After that, he basically stopped working on... I don't know. Okay, maybe he worked on 64. I forgot if he worked on Kirby 64.
He had some involvement with 64, but I don't think he was the director. Let me check.
That's the thing though. NES Remix, Kirby got a start on the Game Boy.
Yeah, he did. Well, but Kirby Adventure is an NES game, Dwebs. This is the second game. Basically, after the huge success that Kirby 1 had on the Game Boy, Sakurai also made an NES game for it. And as you can see, yeah, Kirby's Adventure is very much, taking the original Kirby's Dream Land and basically putting on NES with colors and all that stuff, because a lot of the sprites are the same, just colored.
Even though the Super Nintendo was out?
I guess maybe he started the development before it was out, I don't know.
Let's see, okay, so he was director of Kirby's Dream Land, director of Kirby's Adventure, he directed Kirby's Superstar, he was chief director of Kirby Nightmare and Dreamland and Kirby Air Ride, he was a special advisor for Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, let's see, Kirby 64, he was apparently just a voice actor in Kirby 64.
So basically, he had no involvement in the making of the game. Okay. So yeah, basically.
Just check the complete credits.
I mean, starting with Smash Melee, he basically became the Smash guy. So Kirby got handed out to other people.
He did also make Kid Icarus Uprising, which could really use a port to a console that uses 2 analog sticks.
Yes, Nintendo. That's another thing you could do. Aside from porting these games, how about getting on porting Kid Icarus Uprising?
okay, to be fair, when it comes to that, that's apparently something that's more up to Sakurai's company, since they were the one who developed that and how and whatnot.
Well, it's not like,
okay.
sorry.
One thing people tend to forget is that Sakurai, while he is heavily, affiliated with Nintendo, technically,
yeah, he doesn't
his
work at
games are
Nintendo.
done by his own studios.
Yeah, and Sora Limited is not owned by Nintendo. So.
Yeah, so in that case, technically the whole Kid Icarus Uprising thing is his call, and apparently he hasn't expressed that much interest in coming back to it, which is really a shame because Kid Icarus Uprising is an amazing game that I really want to appreciate and record better for, just without having to hurt my hand.
Is it like how Next Level games were like second party until they were bought by Nintendo?
Yes. Well,
it's kind of like that, except I don't think Sora Limited are officially second party, but it's just, they might as well.
Well, the thing is, that's the thing. Is actually Next Level Games was up until recently. Next Level Games has always been a third-party company. That they were working exclusively with Nintendo for years, but it was just as a hired company to make games. It was later when it was of course after Luigi's Mansion 3 that Nintendo thought, you know what, these guys love working with us, and they're great to have. Why not just buy them? And they bought them.
Since we're talking about Sakurai,
it's a shame that Nintendo already got kind of put a damp on their resume now, but whatever.
Wow,
since we're talking about Sakurai here, I can't help but think back to E3 of 2008, where Iwata announced Smash Bros. Brawl and said that Sakurai would in fact be developing the game, and Sakurai himself didn't even know about that yet. Like, I can only imagine. Now, okay, Iwata probably knew Sakurai well, because Sakurai cannot walk away from Smash, it seems. But man, can you imagine how embarrassing it would have been if Sakurai at that moment just said no?
Yeah, basically. Now, basically, Plebs, much like they've been doing recently with their other Mario sports games, the new Mario Strikers game came out basically with very little content and is now just getting up like more free. Again, it's a thing that people have talked about before with a problem that Nintendo has recently with Mario sports games where they would just release them half-baked and finish them out later with updates, and remember, they release these games for full price at launch, so yeah, go on.
I'd say Strikers came out relatively fine. However, there were blatant characters missing.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. What is Daisy not doing there? She's literally the tomboy princess whose thing is sports. Like, come on. I mean, and okay, now to their credit, they don't charge for these updates. Like, they're free updates. It's just that it is... Okay, and also to their credit, it's not like the games come out, ill-functioning like a Bethesda game or whatever.
Oh, no!
No, they function just fine as well.
Oh, sure, Jova. It's just that, when I pay for $60 for a game, I expect a game with, a good like a $60 worth of content in it, and Strikers wasn't really quite there at launch.
I absolutely get that. Like, I mean, let me put it this. Strikers now? Great game. But Strikers upon release? Yeah, like... At this point, the pattern's becoming obvious.
I love how when you said okay a bit earlier, Jova, it said okay on the screen. You're pretty much in sync with each other.
I love this particular challenge. Yeah, free Mario. Again, you can tell this is a Hayashida game. The double cherry. The double cherry idea. Again, that's one of the coolest ideas Koizumi and his team have ever had, like the double cherry. Like, I really hope the double cherry comes.
That all came from an accidental glitch. Oh, speaking of which, so
yes.
Okay, so I know Koizumi's been around for a while. I know a lot of Galaxy was a collaboration between him and Miyamoto as well.
Yes, Miyamoto came up with the base ideas, and Koizumi was in charge of properly, directing and doing the overall design, and he wrote the story.
I'm trying to remember how much involvement in Odyssey Miyamoto had as well.
Well, Miyamoto at this point, when it comes to Zelda and Mario, he's mostly just kind of checking up once in a while, you know, because he fully trusts Onuma and Koizumi to handle things on their own. Because Koizumi at this
When
point,
it comes to Zelda, I don't think people even really associate him that much with Zelda these days. It's definitely more Onuma.
No, Onuma basically took over at this point. Like, Onuma is the new producer of the series. I mean, because back in the Galaxy days, Nomura was the producer and Koizumi was the director, but after Galaxy 1, Koizumi fully took over as the producer of the Mario series. And Miyamoto went back to work on his own stuff like Pikmin and stuff like that.
Yeah, Pikmin 4 looks pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, that one
is... people from the past, we are finally getting
Pikmin 4.
4.
Yeah, well, that's basically Miyamoto's, like, that's the I get the feeling Miyamoto was all like, okay, I'm kind of done with these two friends, meaning Mario and Zelda. I have these pupils of mine that have proven capable of carrying the torch, so I can just let them with them, so I can focus on my pet project from the GameCube days. So, because that was
really begs the question: is Sakurai ever going to take on a Smash prodigy for when he eventually has to step down from making those games?
Right now, I really hope Sakurai is thinking of. Okay, we don't know what Sakurai is doing now that he's done with Ultimate.
Oh, we know what he's doing. He's hosting an awesome YouTube channel.
Oh, I get that, but in terms of making a new game, I really hope he considers now maybe taking some time to port Uprising. I mean, I'll be okay. I'll be okay with a new game too. Okay, so here's the laundry list of wishes in Nintendo right now. 1. Port NES Remix to the Switch. It's an incredibly simple thing to do. These games are as basic as they get on a technical standpoint. It should be incredibly easy to do so. It's like you can easily port these over the course of 2 weeks. Also, ask Sakurai if he's interested in porting. Making an HD remaster for the Switch of Uprising. You know, please. And while you're at it, Nintendo, where's Xenoblade Chronicles X?
And can we get a new F-Zero game as well with that?
Oh yeah, that too. That's also a good idea. Yeah, so get on it, Nintendo. Otherwise, we'll riot. No, I'm just kidding.
Alright then, but yeah, that was, I guess, our take on the ultimate NES Remix experience.
Mm-hmm. Trust me, like, the Ultimate version is just the combination of the two again. It's the same again. Like, the word ultimate is kind of an exaggeration on their part. Go on.
Yeah, no, I like NES Remix. I mean, it's probably not something I would really go back to much these days, but back in the day, I definitely got some good playtime out of it. It's interesting spins on the NES games, and, well, that's pretty much what it is, says in the title. It's a remix of them.
Yeah. And like I said, for $30 in total for both games, I would say you're getting pretty much a very good value.
Bibs, what do you think?
It's fine.
All right.
Pretty much what you'd expect, little bits and pieces.
All right. Yeah, I actually really like this game. I mean, think of it like the mission mode from Sonic Origins, but like a whole game of just that. You know, that's basically what NES Remix is. It takes all these games and makes you have to play the games in ways that you don't usually do, which is a great way to, which makes it perfect if you're already very experienced with these games. But even if you're not experienced with these games, that's okay, because the game actually was made with that in mind, and thanks to the early challenges that kind of work more like as glorified tutorials, you can get basically familiarized with how the game works before the game actually fishes out the proper challenges. So even non-NES players can still get into this game. So yeah, good kudos on Hayashida for thinking of those people. And yeah, so yeah, Nintendo, why is this not on the Switch? I'm sorry,
either they really have no interest in coming back to it, or surprise, NES Remix free.
I mean, remember during the year 2020, which I know for obvious reasons, there was that kind of period where we didn't have much in terms of Switch releases. Well, the NES Remix would be a very quick and easy port that could have been done to, be something to release. I feel like they could have easily put this out somewhere, but I don't know. Like we'll see how things go. Okay, so Nintendo, please get on that shit that we've already talked about, please. Okay. All right. See you, everybody.
Ta-ta.
Get your Pokemon games on Switch too, anyway.